Las Vegas is amazing, and we believe in the power of community. Hi, I'm your host, Sloan Terranella. Join us in our mission to make the city a better place for all. Together, we can create a brighter future for the Valley, which is why we're talking solutions.
Here's an eye-opening statistic for you. 1 in 6 young adults aged 16 to 24 in Clark County are considered disconnected. What does this mean exactly? Well, it means that they're not in school or meaningfully employed. There's a community effort underway to help connect these 42,000 young adults to get help. Here to talk to us more about the Disconnected Youth Coalition is Cecil Fielder, Strategic Initiative Manager for Workforce Connections, which is Southern Nevada's local workforce development board. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Fielder.
Thank you, Sloan, for having us.
So, my first question is what even is Disconnected Youth Coalition, and what kind of organizations have joined the coalition? And then also, what is Workforce Connections' role in all of this?
Great question. That was a couple of questions rolled up into one, so I'll do my best to unpack. First and foremost, Workforce Connections and the Disconnected Youth Coalition want to extend our deep gratitude for inviting us to the station. As mentioned just before this broadcast, we are on the heels of election and just the political climate. So thank you for creating the space for us to have this discussion. And so just to start unpacking a little bit of what you asked, Southern Nevada faces a critical challenge. Over 42,000 young adults ages 16 to 24 that are disconnected from education and employment. And the longer, Sloan, that they're disconnected, they remain it's more of a challenge to get them to become re-engaged. And so Workforce Connection, we're leading the charge in convening the Disconnected Youth Coalition Initiative with an ambitious goal. For the first 5 years, we want to reconnect 20,000 currently disconnected young adults in the greater Vegas area. Some of our community partners that are helping this coalition are City of Las Vegas, Job Corps, iFoster, organizations like DHHS, JAG Nevada, Nevada Partners, CSN, Workforce Connections, New Ways to Work, among many others. There's, again, over 25 plus community partners that have band together to disrupt the disconnected youth pipeline.
Wow. I mean, it definitely sounds like there's it's a multi-exhaustive approach to kind of ameliorate this problem. But, what constitutes someone as disconnected youth? I know I did mention it's somebody not in school or meaningfully employed, but what exactly does the organization constitute as disconnected youth?
Yeah. So, when we first, so let me back up just a couple of steps. Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner with the City of Las Vegas, Dr. Ricardo Villalobos here at Workforce Connection, and a gentleman by the name of Robert Sines he's the executive director with New Ways to Work. About 2 years ago, we're unpacking the data, running the data just to understand the footprint here in Southern Nevada, what the disconnection rates for these young adults, again, 16 to 24, what it looked like. And it was, staggering, right? 42,000 young adults disconnected, meaning they are not in school and not experiencing early work experience. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what's more alarming. Initially, we thought they were all system impacted. We thought they were Black and brown. We thought they were foster youth. Mm-hmm. We thought they were homeless youth. And though those categories do fall into this 42,000, what we later discovered, Sloan, is that almost 60% of these young adults actually walked across the stage and grabbed a high school diploma, wow, which further told us that some of this is a choice being made by young adults.
Wow. I mean, that kind of did come to my next question of how does youth become disconnected in the first place? Because, I was under that impression that, okay, it's systematic. So you actually are finding that it's a mixture of everything, huh?
Correct. That is correct. It's not just one or two buckets. It is a mixed bag, which makes this even more challenging for us to get our arms around. And that is why the concept of working together allows us to strengthen. It is not one agency, public or private. It is not for-profit or nonprofit. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is a nonpartisan issue. And so we took the stand that together we're stronger.
Yes, yes. I mean, what are some of the consequences of having this population that is disconnected? And, 16 to 24, that's a very sense, that's really when you're developing into your own. What are the consequences for both the young adult, but also, for our society as a whole and even our economy?
So I'm gonna go out on a branch a little bit. And I'll share with you this. I was reading a recent study through the Harvard Business Review Journal, and they are estimating that between now and 2030, that's just 5 years from now, they are estimating that all baby boomers would have retired by 2030.
Wow.
We are not seeing, we are not having children at the same rate of the 60s and the 70s and even early 80s. That declined in the 90s and well into the 2000s. And so we're finding that in the next 5 years, all of your boomers will have retired. Not only are you losing that historical knowledge, men and women that have been in their craft, in their disciplines for 20, 30, 40 plus years, but now we don't even have a pipeline to backfill. And the longer we wait to re-engage the young adults to enter into the workforce, the more staggering it will be on the nation's economy.
Wow. I mean, that is a very jarring statistic. And I mean, so I can imagine that how you approach a 16-year-old may be different to how you approach a 23-year-old. I mean, how do you even connect that young person to resources? How do you make that even initial connection?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to just ensuring that student counselors have the information to re-engage and meet young adults right where they are, mentorship. It's important that we meet young adults right where they are to keep them encouraged. Oftentimes I hear young adults say, coming out of high school, they want to make six figures. You're hearing more and more of that. And what I would encourage young adults, don't despise small beginnings.
Yeah.
Someone needs to work at Panda. And when Mr. Fielder pulls up in the drive-thru, please put a little extra orange chicken on my plate. We laugh, but those skill sets that we adopt in those small beginnings are the incubator system that set us up for our next. Those job skills are transferable. We're learning how to be coached.
Yes.
How to show up to work on time, how to dress. We're learning customer service. Those skill sets are transferable to our next career path or our next job. And so I tell young adults, don't despise small beginnings. We all start somewhere. I started cleaning floors. I was a janitor. I had work experience in my sophomore year in high school at 15 and a half when I got my work permit. I went to school 0 period through 4th, had lunch with my crew, and rode my bike to work. And for 4 hours, I got 10 high school credits per semester. And I was a janitor. For 2 years, I did that.
Wow. I mean, I just think that's such an important lesson, especially with social media right now that often sells us these dreams, right? Like you said, that we have to build and build. That's what my dad always says too, is you constantly have to build yourself. And Rome was never built in a day. Every little experience you have is value. And the numbers in Clark County specifically are among the highest in the country. I mean, why? Why are the numbers so high here and what can be done?
Great question. I don't have all the answers. And I think in business and in the professional climate that we're in, we're afraid to say we don't know.
Yeah.
I would again go out on a limb and say what we're seeing today in 2024 started probably in the 60s and the 70s and continued through the 80s. and the 90s. Our young adults didn't just get here.
Mm-mm.
Some of it's the environment. Some of our kids, again, almost 60%, 58 to the number, 58% walked across a high school stage and grabbed a diploma.
Mm-hmm.
That is a choice. And so some of it is an ecosystem and an environment that we're creating.
Yeah.
And again, that's not the entire issue. But again, just encouraging our young adults to start somewhere, a lifeguard. Anytime I see a young adult in a place of business, I don't care if it's fast food at a restaurant, I don't care if it's a young adult at a professional establishment, I make it a point to be intentional, to greet that young adult and thank them for coming to work today because they had a choice.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it's that motivation and purpose, even if you get up for work for whatever position you may have, it's still giving you like purpose as a young adult, right? Like, I feel like when you have no schedule and, you're just kind of doing whatever, it's not the most purposeful feeling. National partners, because this is basically a nationwide issue, and national partners are also interested in the work happening here. I mean, who are these national partners and what's their role in all of this too?
Great question. So on the national level, you'll hear this term. You won't hear the term disconnected youth anymore. They refer to it now as opportunity youth. At some point here. And I love that.
I like that.
Because it just totally changes the dynamics, right? Opportunity youth. And I'll share a little bit of data on the backside if we're able to engage these young adults. But to your point, some of the partners, we've been tapped on the shoulder by the Walter S. Johnson Foundation. They caught wind of some of the work that we're doing here as a coalition, as a community, banding together, and have seed sowed funding here in Southern Nevada to continue this critical work. Not only did they sow a seed of 100,000, they came back a second round and just awarded us the Disconnected Youth Coalition here in Southern Nevada another 400,000. So we're talking $500,000 of flexible funding that now we're able to braid together with federal funding, foundational and philanthropic dollars with federal funding to meet young adults right where they are. We also were tapped on the shoulder by Jobs First NYC, which is a local intermediary, and said, hey, we want to come alongside you guys and help you establish your local intermediary so that you can continue to attract foundation and philanthropic funding so that you can have the flexible spend to meet these young adults right where they are. And with those fundings, Sloan, we will be able to help them remove barriers, help them with transportation hurdles, also help young adults with education, because that is key critical, training, and eventually career connections, because you have to have a place for these babies to go.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, I think that's a perfect segue to the next question, because you guys are also, data is a big part of this organization. So can you tell me a little bit about the data platform initiative and, why is that so important with this type of work? I mean, I think we know why, right? Numbers don't lie, but tell me a little bit about the data initiative behind this group.
Correct. So it's a two-pronged approach. We've been courting a organization called Community Connections. They have a system software platform called Atlas. We have discovered through the coalition that we need a system software platform where we can speak from agency to agency, from public and private. We need a communication platform. We also need a platform where we can provide real-time referrals. So if a young adult comes to my door, maybe I don't have the resources or the bandwidth to serve. However, instead of closing the door on that young adult in real time, I can say, hey, you know who can help you and meet you right where you are, and send a referral right in the system. The other thing is, to your point, we want to make data-driven solutions. So this platform also allows us to collect data, share data internally, and help us better understand where the puck is headed in this critical work.
Yes, yes. I mean, I've heard, I actually interviewed a social worker for the National Farm Work Association here in Nevada and Arizona, and they were raving about Atlas. I mean, I think that is such a game changer, especially when it comes to our youth and our community here, specifically talking about disconnected youth, right? Why is that initiative different than the work already being done to serve our young adults? Why do you think that data is going to kind of flip the script and really change?
Yeah, I attended a federal conference earlier this year in San Antonio, and I was able to sit in on a live session with Atlas, and it featured their clients from Arizona. Arizona has over 600 community partners in the Atlas platform where they can communicate in real time. That's referrals, when job postings become available. It's also a great platform for career connections. And so the beautiful thing about Atlas for us that we discovered, there's not a licensing fee per. You can put as many community partners into the system as you wish. And what we did was, with the flexible funding that we got from the Walter S. Johnson Foundation, we secured the first 2 years up front for the system software technology.
Another question I have, because I honestly think about my cousin he was a disconnected youth. He tried from 16 to 24. He really tried to become engaged, but he just couldn't. And then he ended up going to prison, and he actually ended up going in the Hope for Prisoners program, which I saw that you were involved in. But it changed his life, right? But he always tells me, I wish when I was in that little age bracket, I wish I actually was re-engaged and I didn't go to prison. I mean, how some youth may be initially engaged, but later they might disengage, right? What strategies do you guys have to kind of ensure long-term success as well?
Again, it goes back to not just outreach, not just TikTok, not just, and those platforms are important. It's not just about Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
It's about being able to share this information with the wrestling coach, share this information with the football coach, with the swim coach, with the janitor. And maybe those individuals don't have to be subject matter experts on the resources available in the community, but those are trusted mentors within the schools. And if they can just grab those young adults by the hand, be a listening ear, but then take them to the counselor, where the counselor can then get them connected with resources in the community. And again, it just goes back to what I said earlier. All of us, each one of us, are charged, we're commanded to make sure that not only we meet young adults right where they are, but to also just be a listening ear and to do our part. It's a cliche, but they say each one teach one. And that is so important. Oftentimes in the corporate climb, we forget to give back. But it was somebody, it was a mentor, it was a coach, it was a parent, a neighbor. It was somebody in our community that not only gave ear, but also gave wise counsel.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, very true. My next question is kind of about you. I mean, you've had a great career in the professional transportation industry. You worked with Hope for Prisoners that have changed so many lives. I mean, you were operating budgets. It was kind of amazing how you kind of ran the professional transportation company. And now you're in workforce development. How did you go from transportation to now helping our youth here in Nevada?
I'll give a short answer. I celebrated 30 years in transportation and logistics last year. I'm a young man, Sloan. Please don't do the math. But in 1992, my mother asked me, she says, baby, how much money are you making? She had just opened Monique's limousine service in Beverly Hills. And I said, Ma, I just got a raise. She says, okay, how much money are you making? I said, I'm making $4.25. She says, wait a minute. You've been cleaning toilets and mopping floors for less than $4.25? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, what were you making when you first started in 1990? I said, $3.75. That was minimum wage back then as a janitor. She reached in her credenza. I'll never forget. She reached in her credenza, Sloan, and she opened up a Thomas Guide. Before there was Google Maps and MapQuest, it was something called a Thomas Guide. She says, if I can teach you how to read grid and route my drivers from point A to point B, it'd be like teaching you how to fish. You'll never go hungry in this game called transportation. Come work for me.
Wow.
I said, Ma, I can't work for you. She says, why not? I said, you're my ma. She says, Cecil, I'll pay you what I pay my executive chauffeur. She says, I pay my chauffeur $20 an hour plus tip.
Ooh.
I'll pay you $20 to learn how to dispatch. Now, Sloan, it ain't rocket science. It took me 4 hours to make $20. This woman just offered me a position at $20 an hour. I gave my notice and I cut my teeth in the family-owned business at Monique's Limousine Service. And I learned how to dispatch. I learned operations. I learned safety. And then from there, my career took off and progressed and went on to work for some bigger organizations. But I say all that to say, it started with the small beginnings. She was watching me. He's coachable. Yeah. He's hungry. He wants to learn.
Yeah.
And she gave me a start. And so with that being said, I've had a great career run. And last year I made a intentional and calculated decision to leave transportation and come into the world of workforce development and community development. I believe in giving back. I was a disconnected youth. I probably checked all the boxes, Sloan, between 16 and 24. Somewhere around 24, my father was sentenced to 50 years in California State Prison. And 6 months later, my mom, in an unrelated crime, my mother was shot and killed.
Wow.
And so, no more would I see my mother and my father at the head of the table at Thanksgiving dinner. And so I was a disconnected youth. And, transportation is in my rear view. My commitment now going forward out of the windshield is community development, workforce development.
Wow. I mean, I can't think of a better leader to help to really help our youth and to ensure that they're not getting lost in, this background of Las Vegas. If an organization wants to learn more about the Disconnected Youth Coalition, or somebody just wants to reach out, who should they contact? Where should they get information from?
Absolutely. And following this segment, I'll be sure to provide that information with you. And make sure that I give you some seamless communication where folks can not only get connected with us, but also be part of the coalition.
Yes. Amazing. I mean, is there anything that you would like to add or anything I missed before we take off?
Just some closing thoughts that come to mind. I'm so grateful that community partners, as well as Dr. Ricardo Villalobos, Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, Dr. Robert Sands, their thought-forward vision of where this puck is going and this critical work is just invaluable to Southern Nevada and Nevada as a whole, because we want to take some of the best practices that we are doing here in Southern Nevada and also share them with our sister company, Nevada Works, up in the north. And we want to take a state approach. And so we want to share some best practices also with them. And again, we are committed to disrupting the disconnected youth pipeline that are affecting over 42,000 young adults here in Southern Nevada.
Yes. I mean, the foundation of every state is the education and support of its youth. To learn more about Workforce Connections and all the amazing programs that they've implemented, as well as the Disconnected Youth Coalition, please visit nvworkforceconnections.org. Once again, I'm with Cecil Fielder, Strategic Initiatives Manager at Workforce Connections. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with us.
Thank you, Sloan. We appreciate you.
Talking Solutions is a production of Beasley Media Group. For people, stories, or topics that you think we should discuss, please email talkingsolutionsbmg@gmail.com.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.